Happy Monday, Jerome's. We have the top 9 storylines from Vikings versus Niners. Second preseason game is in the books. One more to go. And the top storylines, are they overreactions or are they legit? We're going to parse through some of the main storylines and narratives and tropes and all that stuff and get down to business. Number one, of course, QB2 is a disastrous wasteland. Now, Kellen Mond, he couldn't build upon his momentum from the first preseason game. Sean Mannion, was Sean Mannion, right? So, is it legit? I'm going to say quasi-legit. Actually, we're going to edit this. Quasi-legit. And we will introduce a new color here, right? So the problem is neither Mond or Mannion have had like really good practices, right? And we talk about practice, right? But the thing is, knocking on all the wood, if something happened to Kirk Cousins, what's going to happen this season? Although that is true about most teams. Now, I understand that it's very much a first world problem to be worried about the quality and caliber of the backup quarterback, but I still think that Kellen Mond has potential. I don't know if he's ready right away, if he's called upon, but I still think that he should be groomed for the future. Sean Mannion, is Sean Mannion. Should the Vikings look at options? Like Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell said, we evaluate everything, and we're just trying to improve this football team. And if a quality backup gets put on waivers trying to get onto the practice squad, or they deem a street free agent to be better than Mannion or Kellen Mond to be QB2 if they had to be forced into duty this season, do it. I just said duty. Do it. Next up, number 2, Ed Ingram isn't ready. That's definitely an overreaction. He gave up that big splash play to Javon Kinlaw, and yes, Kellen Mond should have thrown the ball a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. Plus, Ingram getting out on that screen in front of King Kene should have been a little bit more decisive, but we're literally nitpicking because that's how high of a caliber of a player Ed Ingram is. If a UDFA or a day 3 selection was doing that in a preseason game, we'd be over the moon, right? But Ed Ingram, second round talent, maybe he's going to be a week 1 starter for the Vikings. I think that he is held to a higher standard on the field, so I think that he still is going to be in line to start week 1. I don't think Jesse Davis is going to be the guy. Chris Reed is still up on blocks, so I think that is an overreaction. I think Ingram is probably going to play in the third and final preseason game against the Broncos. Solid showing, should lock that thing up, even though they basically have already given Ingram the job because Ingram was playing with the ones even when Jesse Davis was practicing on Wednesday against the Niners. So there you go. Next up, number 3 is Austin Schlottmann, starting center, ? So Garrett Bradbury sat. Chris Reed was out with an injury for the second straight preseason game. Schlottmann played good, man. Absolutely played good. 92.2 PFF grade against the Niners, following up a very solid first game against the Raiders, being the pivot man for the second team offensive line. And I think that maybe there's a little bit of steam there. Now, I don't think that it'll come out of the gates. I don't think they'll start Schlottmann week 1 against the Packers. I still think that it's going to be Bradbury. But if Bradbury's not living up to the standard, could you see Schlottmann in there? Yes, I think he certainly could, and I think that his familiarity with the blocking scheme as well as the coaching staff that came over from Denver, where Schlottmann got his start, I think that's everything's coming out Millhouse for him. So I think that one is actually legit, too legit to quit. No. Too legit to quit. We're a professional organization here. There we go, number 4. Actually, do we have to pay royalties on that? That doesn't matter. Number 4, Caleb Evans is a stud in the making. Now, the 4th-round cornerback coming out of Mizzou got extended time because Andrew Booth Jr. left with a knee injury. Basically played the entire game, and he looked really good. Led the team in tackles with 10, had a 79.7 PFF coverage grade, and you see the attitude where he's not afraid to come up and support the run. He's good on the outside, played a lot of zone in college. The Vikings defense is moving towards more of a zone defense, but I think that he does have the attributes and abilities to be a very solid man-to-man cornerback as well. And also, I think that he's in a good spot where the Vikings do have Peterson and Dancer on the outside. They got Chandon in the slot. They also got Booth aboard. So Evans isn't going to be pressed into duty again before he's ready. So I think that he is going to be a legit surprise. And he's been one of the players that I really liked in the draft process. And I think that the Vikings got really good value when they moved up in the 4th round to go get him. Number 5, overreaction or legit, BC Johnson is back, ? I think that one is legit. And now, is BC Johnson back? He was never authorized to leave. So with BC, coming in as a 7th-round pick back in the day. As a rookie, really surprised, really had a nice season for a 7th-rounder, filling in for Adam Thielen, who was down with an injury. Then 2020, yes, he started the first 2 games versus ahead of Justin Jefferson, so BC Johnson is going to be forever an answer to a trivia question. Then last year, tore his ACL. This year, in a contract season, I think that he is a perfectly solid wide receiver 5'6". I think that he'll be in the mix. My prediction was for our 53, I have Tristan Jackson and BC Johnson as our wide receivers 5'6", rounding out the 53-man rooster. But I think BC is a solid special teamer. Frankly, I think that BC should be considered for the punt return job, and not just the split returner thing like they were doing. Like who has 2 returners back on punts? It's kind of crazy. But I think that I would trust BC over ISM. I would trust BC over Jalen Naylor. I would trust BC over Burt Johnson. But sort of is what it is. BC was a good returner back at Colorado State. Next up, speaking of punt returner, the punt returner position is Fubar. I think that one might be legit. I think that one might be legit, where, like we said, there's a reason why ISM didn't return punts at Iowa. They're 2 different skill sets. He struggled. He has struggled in training camp. He muffed one in practice earlier in the week. Also, it does seem like he doesn't track the ball as well as he would like. And that, of course, is a big part of being a punt returner, because the number one thing is catching the ball. As silly and as simplistic as that sounds, catching the ball, whether a fair catch and not letting it bounce and roll, that's really important. Of course, ISM had that fumble, went over to the Niners. Jalen Naylor could have got to one that he let roll, and then the Niners down at the 1. That's also a big no-no. So I think the Vikings might have a problem. I think it might be BC Johnson's season. Next up, Zach Davidson's season is over. I think that one is legit. Where he got a mulligan last year, 5th-round pick out of Central Missouri Eastern Tech State, whatever. And he was a physical freak unicorn, 6'7", checked all the boxes that you want physically, but he was a move tight end, also a former punter, and you're trying to move him to a traditional inline tight end spot. But 3 drops. 3 big-time drops. Drop from Kellen Mond on 3rd down on a good ball, as well as a great ball from Sean Mannion up the seam on basically what should have been a touchdown, given Davidson's physical attributes. But, yeah. It's no bueno. And also, I think 7th-round pick Nick Muse coming out of South Carolina really showed well. Also, since Muse was a draft pick of this current regime and Davidson was a draft pick of the previous regime, that's another strike against him. So I think that Davidson, I think he's a long shot to make the 53, and I wouldn't bet on him making the practice squad at this point, unless he has a really good 3rd and final preseason game. Lastly, actually 2 more, because I'm really good at counting stuff. Punter controversy. Jordan Berry versus Ryan Wright. I think that's an overreaction. Where Ryan Wright, I mean, it's fun seeing oddly shaped punters. We love it, man. 47.5 yards per punt, but Jordan Berry, he's punting fine. He's also the superior holder, plus he has chemistry with DePaulo and Greg Joseph. So, yeah, it's overreaction. And lastly, number 9, is it T.Y. McGill season? T.Y. McGill leading the NFL in preseason sacks with 3.5, also has 8 pressures on the season. I think it's an overreaction. Well, kind of overreaction. Where, T.Y. McGill has had himself a good training camp, but, he's bounced around the league. He's had 9 different teams in 8 seasons, 13 different stops. A bit of a journeyman, UDFA coming out of NC State back in the day. But I say kinda because I think that he secured himself a spot on the 53. I think that he'll be the backup nose tackle for Harrison Phillips, and I think that he will have a role in some sub packages, especially getting after it in the 2-4-5 nickel. All of a sudden, you put T.Y. McGill out there on 3rd down. Maybe it's 3rd and short. Maybe you also want to be stout up the middle just in case they run it, but also you want a little boogie from your nose tackle, a guy that can get after the quarterback's ass. Thank you. Woo! So I'm not saying that T.Y. McGill is going to be the next John Randall or Aaron Donald or whatever. I don't think he's going to supplant anyone in the starting lineup, but I think that he secured himself a spot on the roster, and he's really impressing. So props to him. So that's it. Running through some of the main storylines from Vikings versus Niners, and we determine overreaction or too legit to quit. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts Monday morning, Vike. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Most worth the work. Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.